Ada and Wosu had seen her share of impossible clients, but nothing prepared her for the message that popped onto her screen that morning. Appointment confirmed, Kong Group headquarters, Seoul. She reread it twice, half expecting it to vanish like a prank. Kong Group? The Kong Group? The same empire run by her childhood best friend. Well, former best friend, Kong Dae-hyun. The same boy who once called her short lawyer in training after she beat him in a mock debate at 12. Now, 10 years later, he was a CEO, and he wanted her as his company lawyer. When she walked into the glass tower lobby, the receptionist's polite bow didn't calm her nerves. Neither did the sight of Seoul's skyline glittering behind the elevator's mirrored walls. Ada smoothed her navy blazer and muttered under her breath, "No big deal. Just saving a billionaire from himself." The elevator doors slid open to reveal Dae-hyun's office, spacious, minimalist, and intimidatingly quiet. He looked up from behind his desk, the same calm expression she remembered, only sharper now. "Counselor Nwosu," he greeted smoothly, standing to shake her hand. "You're on time. Impressive. I thought Nigerians liked to make an entrance." Ada arched a brow. "And I thought Koreans didn't tease clients before coffee." His lips curved slightly. "Still fiery. Still annoying. Welcome to Munlyt Stories, where Munlyt meets myth. Love timeless tales? Then hit like, subscribe, and join the circle. Every story begins with you." The silence that followed buzzed with old familiarity, the kind that could turn into laughter or an argument in seconds. Dae-hyun gestured for her to sit. "I need a lawyer I can trust. The board wants to renegotiate our contract with an overseas partner. I don't want leaks or drama." "Right," Ada said, flipping open her notebook. "So you called me, your dramatic ex-neighbor who once reported you to your mom for stealing meat pie." He chuckled quietly. "You never let me forget that." She smirked. "Never will." Minutes passed in brisk professionalism until his phone buzzed. He sighed. "Excuse me. Another breakup message." Ada looked up. "Another?" He shrugged, unbothered. "Relationships require energy. I'm low on batteries." She couldn't help laughing. "You mean low on honesty?" He gave her a playful glare. "Maybe that's why I hired you, to clean my messes." Ada rolled her eyes, but her heart softened. Beneath the CEO facade was the same boy who once helped her fix her first bicycle. When their meeting ended, she stood, gathering her files. "All right, Mr. Kong, I'll review the contracts tonight." He nodded. "Good. And Ada, welcome back to my chaos." She smiled faintly as she left the office, heart doing the thing it shouldn't. 3 weeks into her new role at Kong Group, Ada had already learned 2 things. 1. Dae-hyun was allergic to rest. 2. He had a gift for turning peace into mild chaos. She was reviewing a stack of partnership contracts when her phone buzzed. "Dae-hyun, come to my office. Emergency." Her stomach tightened. Please don't let this be another merger crisis. When she stepped in, he was pacing, tie loose, phone in one hand, stress in the other. "What happened?" she asked. He looked up. "You have to help me." "That's not new," she said dryly. "Be specific." He exhaled. "My ex, Ji-woo, won't stop calling. She's convinced we're getting back together. I might have said I was dating someone else." Ada's brows shot up. "You what?" I panicked. He ran a hand through his hair. "She was at a gala last night. I told her I'm seeing someone serious." Ada blinked. "Let me guess, you want me to draft a fake contract to back this lie?" He shook his head, stepping closer. "No, I want you to be the lie." She stared. "Excuse me. Just for one dinner," he pleaded. "You're the only woman she can insult without looking jealous. Please, Ada. Save me from another scandal." Ada crossed her arms, trying to hold her ground. "So, the CEO of Kong Group wants his lawyer to pretend to be his girlfriend. That's your emergency." He nodded, looking almost boyish. "Exactly." She laughed incredulously. "Do you hear yourself?" "I do. And it sounds desperate. But desperate times." Ada shook her head, suppressing a smile. "Unbelievable." He grinned faintly. "That's not a no. It's a maybe, which is one syllable away from yes. Don't push it." But the way he looked at her, half teasing, half hopeful, made something inside her soften. That evening, She found herself sitting across from him at a candlelit restaurant, wearing a simple black dress she swore was for work emergencies only. Jiwoo arrived in designer armor, her smile too sweet to be real. "Oh, Adora, I didn't know you two were close." Ada smiled politely. "Very close." Daehyun reached over, brushing her hand lightly. "She keeps me in line." Ada almost choked on her drink. Sometimes. The dinner was a blur of subtle jabs and forced laughter. When it finally ended, Jiwoo left with a tight smile, and Ada exhaled in relief. In the car back, Daehyun glanced at her. "You were perfect." "Never again," she muttered. "I'm your lawyer, not your body shield." He laughed softly. "You're both now. Congratulations." She turned to the window, fighting a smile. Somewhere between irritation and amusement, her heart betrayed her. Adora was halfway through her morning coffee when her phone rang. The caller ID read, Kang Daehyun, which usually meant chaos. "Good morning, boss," she answered. "What's burning today?" His voice was tight. "Me. Apparently I'm being sued." Ada nearly choked. "You're what?" Jiwoo filed a lawsuit. "She's claiming emotional distress and reputational damage. Says I used her image for publicity." Ada blinked, stunned. "Publicity? What did you do this time?" "I posted one photo," he said, sounding defensive. "It was the restaurant picture from last week." "You were in it too." Ada sighed, rubbing her temple. "You posted our fake date picture? On your company's account." "It looked convincing," he said quietly, "and I wanted her to stop calling." "Congratulations," she said flatly. "You just upgraded drama to litigation." He groaned. "Can you come to my office?" "Please." 20 minutes later, Ada was standing before his desk, scanning the printed complaint. Her lawyer instincts kicked in immediately. She's suing for defamation and emotional distress. She's also demanding an apology in court. Daehyun looked at her helplessly. "So what do I do?" She folded her arms. "You hire me, officially, as your defense counsel." A smile flickered across his lips. "I was hoping you'd say that." "Don't get comfortable," she warned. "This is serious. Jiwoo's lawyers are good. They'll twist every word you say." He nodded obediently, but his tone softened. "I trust you, Ada." The words hit her unexpectedly deep. For the next few days, they worked side by side, late nights in the office, stacks of papers, quiet laughter over takeout meals. Every time their hands brushed while reaching for the same file, Ada felt her heart stumble. One night, as she reviewed his testimony draft, she said softly, "You know, this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't used me as your fake girlfriend." He looked up, amused. "Are you saying you regret it?" "I'm saying I like peaceful jobs," she said, suppressing a grin. He leaned back. "You like saving me. Admit it." "I like saving my client from his poor decisions." He chuckled, still fiery. "And you're still reckless." They stared at each other a second too long. The air between them shifted, warm, unspoken, dangerous. Ada broke the silence first, closing her folder. "Let's focus. Court's in 2 days." He nodded, though a small smile lingered. "Yes, Counselor Ada." When she finally left his office that night, Daehyun watched her go, realizing the truth he'd been avoiding. This lawsuit might be his biggest mistake, but it also brought her closer than ever. The Seoul courthouse gleamed like glass and authority combined. Adora adjusted her blazer, steadying her breath as cameras flashed outside. This was no ordinary case. It was Kang Group versus Jiwoo, and the headlines were already calling it the CEO's love scandal. Inside, Daehyun sat beside her at the defendant's table, calm on the surface, restless underneath. "You ready?" Ada whispered. He glanced sideways, a flicker of humor in his eyes. "Only if you promise not to glare at me the whole time." "I make no promises," she muttered, flipping open her file. The hearing began. Jiwoo's lawyer painted Daehyun as manipulative, using his breakup and fake relationship for attention. Cameras clicked. Whispers buzzed. When Ada rose to cross-examine, the entire courtroom stilled. Her voice was steady, sharp, and graceful. "Miss Jiwoo," she began, "did Mr. Kang ever mention your name publicly during or after your relationship?" Jiwoo blinked. "No." "Did he post or imply anything defamatory about you?" Jiwoo hesitated. Not directly, but... So this lawsuit is based on assumption, not evidence. Ada pressed gently, her tone respectful yet firm. The crowd murmured. Even the judge looked impressed. Dae-hyun, watching her command the room, couldn't hide the quiet pride in his smile. She's incredible, he thought. When the session ended, Ada gathered her papers, ignoring the curious reporters outside. In the corridor, Dae-hyun caught up with her. You were amazing in there. She gave a small smile. It's called doing my job. He tilted his head. Then maybe I should get sued more often. Don't test me, Kang Dae-hyun. They shared a short laugh that lingered longer than it should. Later that evening, they met again at his office to review final arguments. The building was quiet, city lights flickering through the tall windows. Ada stood by the desk, reading her notes. We'll win if you stay calm tomorrow. Just answer what's asked. He nodded but wasn't listening to the papers, only to her voice. You know, he said softly, you always talk like you're protecting me. I'm protecting my client. He smiled faintly. Then I'm lucky to be your client. Ada's hand paused mid-note. You should focus on the case, not flattery. Who says I'm flattering? Their eyes met. For a long second, neither spoke. The air grew thick, part tension, part something else they couldn't name. Finally, Ada looked away. We're done for tonight. He leaned back, still smiling. If you say so, counselor. As she left the office, Ada pressed her hand against her chest. Winning the case was simple. Winning her heart, that was becoming dangerous. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause as the judge's gavel fell. Case dismissed, he declared. Ji-woo's expression faltered, while Dae-hyun exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Ada stood beside him, composed yet radiant, the kind of calm that came from both relief and pride. Outside, reporters swarmed, but she guided him through the flashes with her usual poise. No comments, please, she said briskly. My client has a company to run, not a talk show. Dae-hyun bit back a smile. Still bossy. Still your lawyer, she shot back. By evening, the chaos had settled. He sent her a message. Dae-hyun, we won. One drink won't kill us, right? Ada, only if you're buying. He was already waiting at a cozy rooftop lounge overlooking the Seoul skyline when she arrived. The city glowed below, silver, gold, and alive. You look relaxed, she teased, sliding into the seat beside him. He lifted his glass. To the best lawyer in Korea, and probably the only one who can tolerate me. Ada clinked glasses with a grin. I'll take that as a compliment. One drink became two. Then three. Their laughter softened into something easy and familiar. Two old friends who forgot they'd grown up. Remember when you tried to build a treehouse behind your mom's store? She said, giggling. You used shoelaces as rope. He laughed, shoulders shaking. You fell off the ladder and blamed me for a week. I did not. You did, he said, smiling, eyes warm. You always do. The laughter faded into a quiet pause, the kind that felt heavier than silence. Dae-hyun set his glass down. Ada, he said softly, thank you. Not just for the case, for everything. She looked at him, eyes catching the reflection of Seoul's lights. Don't thank me. Just stop getting sued. He chuckled, then, with sudden honesty, whispered, I don't think I could have done this without you. Her smile faltered slightly. You'd survive. Maybe, he said, but I wouldn't want to. Something inside her shifted, a flutter she couldn't name. She should have stood up, said good night, kept it professional. But instead she stayed. The night blurred into laughter, music, one last toast, and then everything melted into soft warmth and dim light. The next morning, Ada woke in a strange bed. Her heart thudded as realization struck. The quiet rhythm of Dae-hyun's breathing beside her made it all too real. Oh no, she whispered, sitting up. She scrambled for her clothes, her mind spinning. This couldn't have happened. It shouldn't have. Before he stirred, she slipped out, heels in hand, leaving only the faint scent of her perfume behind. The office smelled of fresh coffee and new beginnings, except for Ada and Wosu, whose morning smelled like panic and regret. She had spent the entire night replaying the rooftop scene in her head. The laughter, the toasts, the warmth of his hand on hers, then the blur, The silence. The bed. Now, she was walking into Kong Group headquarters like someone entering a minefield. Her friend Yemi's voice still echoed in her head from their early call that morning. Ada, breathe. You're human. Humans don't sleep with their boss, Yemi. Technically, he slept too. Equal participation. Ada had groaned, hung up, and marched straight to work, hoping, somehow, to avoid him completely. But fate, as usual, had a sense of humor. The elevator doors opened to reveal Dae-hyun, standing there with his coffee, looking impossibly calm. "Morning," he said easily. "Morning," she replied, forcing a polite smile. Silence filled the elevator. The numbers ticked upward, painfully slow. She focused on the floor. He glanced at her reflection in the mirror, lips twitching. "Did you get home all right?" he asked casually. Her head snapped up. "Home? Yes. Perfectly fine. Totally uneventful." "Good," he said, a faint smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "I was worried you might have fallen asleep somewhere." Ada nearly dropped her bag. "No. Didn't happen. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened." He nodded thoughtfully. "Of course. Nothing at all." By the time they reached the top floor, she was ready to dig a hole and live in it. Inside her office, she buried herself in work. Every knock on the door made her heart race. But the universe wasn't done teasing her. His voice came through the door hours later. "Counselor Ada, we have a board meeting." She looked up sharply. "Board meeting? Since when?" "Since I scheduled it," he said, stepping in. "You're my legal counsel, remember?" "Right. Professional. Work." She grabbed her files like a soldier arming for battle. During the meeting, Ada kept her eyes glued to her notes. But every time Dae-hyun spoke, she could feel his presence like static in the air. When he leaned closer to pass a document, their fingers brushed, quick, electric, and full of memories neither wanted to acknowledge. After the meeting, he followed her to the hallway. "Ada," he said softly. She turned, guarded. "Yes, Mr. Kong." His voice lowered. "We should talk about that night." "There's nothing to talk about," she replied too quickly. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded with a faint, knowing smile. "If you say so." As he walked away, Ada pressed her back to the wall, her pulse racing. There was no undoing what happened, only pretending. And pretending was already impossible. For the next 2 weeks, Adora became Seoul's fastest-moving lawyer. If Dae-hyun walked into a room, she found a reason to leave it. If he called a meeting, she sent notes instead. If he asked to see her, she conveniently had another client. Yemi noticed first. "Ada, you're dodging him like he's an unpaid bill." Ada glared. "I'm being professional." "You're being weird." Yemi leaned closer. "You two had one night. It's not the apocalypse." Ada sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's complicated. It's feelings, Ada. Complicated as feelings with fancy vocabulary." At that, Ada threw a pillow at her, ending the conversation but not the guilt. At the office, Dae-hyun watched the avoidance like a detective watching a crime unfold. She answered emails at lightning speed but never looked at him directly. She declined coffee breaks, staff dinners, and even a team photo. Finally, one afternoon, he appeared at her office door holding a stack of files and a lopsided grin. "Am I that scary, Counselor Ada?" Ada froze mid-typing. "Excuse me. You vanish every time I enter a room. Should I book an appointment to speak to my own lawyer?" "I'm just busy," she stammered. He leaned on the doorframe, eyes amused. "Busy avoiding your client?" Her jaw tightened. "You're imagining things." He nodded slowly. "Maybe. But if this is imagination, it's incredibly consistent." She shot him a glare, but couldn't help the faint smile tugging her lips. "Fine," she said finally. "You want a meeting? Let's talk business." He crossed the room and set the files down. Business later. Coffee first. Dae-hyun. Not CEO. Not client. Just Dae-hyun. "You've been calling me Mr. Kong, like we never built sandcastles together." Ada blinked, caught between irritation and nostalgia. "You still remember that?" He smiled gently. "I remember everything." The warmth in his tone unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. Before she could reply, Yemi's voice drifted in from the hallway. She was on speakerphone with another staff member. I swear, Ada's been acting strange. She's glowing these days. Probably seeing someone. Ada froze. Dae-hyun's eyebrow lifted. Seeing someone? She meant. Ada began, flustered. It's just gossip. He smirked, stepping closer. And here I thought you were avoiding me because you couldn't look at me without remembering. Don't finish that sentence, she cut in quickly. Fine, he said, grinning. But I'm not done talking. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. Dinner tomorrow. My treat. No legal talk. No running away. Ada opened her mouth to protest, but he was already gone. She sat back, heart pounding. Avoiding him had been easy. Surviving dinner? That would be the real challenge. Ada told herself all day that it wasn't a date. It was just dinner. Two adults. Discussing, well, probably nothing serious. Yet, by 7 p.m., she had changed her outfit 3 times. When Yemi caught her holding 2 pairs of earrings and frowning, she smirked. Not a date, huh? Ada sighed. It's professional courtesy. Sure, Yemi said, laughing. You're wearing that perfume for courtesy now. The restaurant Dae-hyun chose wasn't one of those glittering Seoul rooftops this time. It was quiet, tucked beside the Han River, warm light spilling through wood and glass. He was already there when she arrived. No tie, sleeves rolled, smile easy. You're early, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. He shrugged. Couldn't risk you escaping. Ha. They ordered. Conversation began awkwardly, work, court cases, office gossip. Then, slowly, the old rhythm returned. Do you remember when you tried to teach me Korean in middle school? She said. You made me say something that actually meant, I smell like a fish market. He laughed. You forgave me the next day. I did not. You did, he said softly, eyes warm. You always do. For a heartbeat. Silence lingered. The kind of silence that hummed. Ada looked away, pretending to study the candlelight. You know, you're impossible to stay mad at. Good, he murmured. Because I don't plan on letting you stay mad. Her heart stumbled. After dinner, they stepped outside. The Han River shimmered beneath the night sky, 1,000 lights dancing on its surface. Ada pulled her blazer tighter against the breeze. This is nice, she admitted. Dae-hyun looked at her, hands in pockets. Ada, can I ask something? She nodded cautiously. If that night hadn't happened, he said gently, would we still be here, having dinner? She froze. Dae-hyun. I'm not asking for an answer, he continued quickly. I don't regret it. The honesty in his tone made her chest tighten. You should, she whispered, half smiling. I can't, he said simply. You were the first real thing in my life that didn't come with contracts or shareholders. Ada turned to face him fully, eyes glistening under the city lights. You talk like this, and then you wonder why people fall for you. He smiled faintly. Are you one of those people? Her breath caught. Good night, Dae-hyun. She walked toward the car, heart racing. Behind her, he stood quietly, watching, a soft smile curving his lips. One dinner had changed nothing and everything. By Monday, the entire Kong Group office was buzzing, and Adora could feel every whisper. She had dinner with the boss. They looked close. Maybe she's the reason he's smiling lately. She pretended not to hear any of it, head down, eyes glued to her laptop. But even she couldn't deny the shift. Dae-hyun greeted her each morning with that quiet warmth only she noticed. He lingered after meetings. He laughed more. And worse, she liked it. Still, Ada clung to professionalism like armor. No glances, no smiles, no feelings. But Yemi, as usual, saw right through her. You're glowing again, she teased over lunch. You sure you're not in love? Ada nearly choked on her soup. Love? I'm allergic to that word. Right, Yemi said, grinning. And yet you said his name 3 times in 5 minutes. Ada pointed her spoon. You're hearing things. That afternoon, Dae-hyun called her to his office. She expected a new case file. Instead, he stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking thoughtful. You've been quiet lately, he said. I've been working, she replied smoothly. Working or avoiding? She blinked. You're imagining things again. He turned, his smile soft. Maybe. But if I am, don't correct me. Her heart stumbled. Why? Because I like it when my imagination includes you. For a long second, the air between them stilled. Not tense, just full. Ada opened her mouth to speak, but the door swung open. Jiwoo. Her voice sliced through the quiet. Oh, I didn't know your lawyer was this involved, Dae-hyun. Ada straightened instantly, professionalism snapping back like elastic. Miss Jiwoo, this is a work discussion. Jiwoo smirked. Of course. And I'm sure all your work meetings end with candlelight dinners by the Han River. Before Ada could reply, Dae-hyun's tone dropped. Enough, Jiwoo. Jiwoo's smile faltered. You've changed. I grew up, he said simply. Maybe you should too. She left in a swirl of perfume and frustration. Ada stood frozen, pulse racing. That was uncomfortable. Dae-hyun sighed, rubbing his temples. I'm sorry you had to see that. It's fine, she murmured. It's part of your world, not mine. He looked at her then, eyes steady. You're wrong. You've always been part of my world, Ada. Even when you tried not to be. She hesitated, then whispered. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because they sound like confessions. He smiled faintly. Then don't answer yet. As she turned to leave, her reflection caught in the glass, his gaze still on her, quiet and full of something she wasn't ready to name. The morning started like any other. Emails, meetings, coffee, the usual rhythm Adora used to keep her mind from wandering toward the man in the corner office. But by mid-afternoon, her rhythm faltered. She felt dizzy halfway through a contract review, her stomach twisting in quiet rebellion. She brushed it off, blaming stress, but the nausea didn't leave. Yemi noticed first. Ada, you look pale. I'm fine, she said quickly. Probably skipped breakfast. Breakfast, lunch, and common sense, Yemi muttered, handing her water. Then her voice softened. You've been off for days. What's wrong? Ada hesitated. Nothing. Just tired. But that night, as she stood in her small apartment staring at the calendar on her wall, her pulse stopped. The dates didn't add up. Oh no, she whispered. 2 pink lines the next morning confirmed what her heart already feared. She sat on the edge of her bathtub, staring at the test, the world suddenly very quiet. Pregnant. The word felt unreal, heavy, sacred, terrifying. Her first instinct was to call Yemi. Within minutes, her friend burst through the door, eyes wide. Talk, Yemi demanded. Ada held up the test silently. Yemi froze, then whispered, Oh. Yeah, Ada said weakly. Oh. They sat in silence before Yemi finally said, You have to tell him. Ada shook her head. No, I can't. He's got enough chaos, the company, the media, Jiwoo. This would ruin everything. Ada, it's his baby too. I just need time, she said softly. Please. 2 days later, at the office, time ran out. Yemi stopped by with a smoothie, and as luck or fate would have it, Dae-hyun passed by the open door, just as Yemi said, You can't keep hiding a pregnancy forever. The smoothie nearly slipped from Ada's hand. Silence. Then footsteps. Dae-hyun stood in the doorway, stunned. What did she just say? Yemi froze. I was leaving. She bolted faster than logic allowed. Ada stood, heart racing. Dae-hyun, wait. He stepped closer, voice calm but trembling underneath. Is it true? Her throat tightened. I was going to tell you. When? His tone sharpened, not angry, just hurt. After the baby starts walking. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't know how. I didn't want to make things complicated. He exhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. Too late for that. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then softer. We'll talk after work. My house. Don't argue. Ada nodded, silently praying for strength. Because this wasn't a case she could win or lose. This was life and love catching up at last. Adora barely touched her food that evening. She sat at Dae-hyun's dining table, the same one where he once drafted contracts and now sat in silence across from her. The air between them was thick with all the things neither knew how to say. Finally, he spoke. How long have you known? 2 days, she whispered. He nodded slowly, jaw tight. And you weren't going to tell me? I was trying to figure it out, she said quickly. I didn't even know how to start that conversation. He leaned back, exhaling. Ada, you don't figure out parenthood alone. I didn't want to complicate your life. He met her eyes, calm, steady, hurting. You are my life. Her breath caught. The words hung between them, soft but dangerous. I don't expect anything from you, she said finally. I can take care of myself. I know you can, he replied. But you won't do this alone. She blinked. What do you mean? I want us to co-parent properly, he said firmly. You'll stay here at my house until you have the baby. Her eyes widened. What? No. I can't. You can, he interrupted gently. You'll have your own room, your own space, anything you need. Seoul can be harsh. I don't want you stressing over rent, doctors, or reporters sniffing around. She shook her head. People will talk. He smiled faintly. They already do. Let them talk about something true for once. Ada folded her hands in her lap. You've thought this through. He nodded. I don't make decisions halfway. Silence settled again. The hum of the city outside filled the room. Finally, Ada said quietly, You're serious. I've never been more serious, he answered. I know you're afraid, but you don't have to be. You'll have me as a partner, not a burden. Her throat tightened. Dae-hyun. He leaned forward, his tone softening. You've carried me through lawsuits and chaos. Let me carry us through this. Something in his sincerity broke down her walls. After a long pause, she whispered, All right, just until the baby. He smiled, small, relieved, and real. Deal. Don't think this makes us roommates, she muttered, half teasing. He grinned. Of course not. Roommates don't argue this much. For the first time that evening, she laughed. The sound felt light, fragile but hopeful. As she stood to leave, he stopped her gently. Ada! She turned. I meant what I said, he said softly. You're not a complication. You're the reason I finally understand what matters. She looked at him for a long moment, heart trembling, then nodded. Good night, Dae-hyun. And though she didn't say it out loud, her heart whispered back, Thank you. Adora stood outside Dae-hyun's mansion with 2 suitcases, her heart thudding louder than the intercom chime. She had faced angry clients, jealous exes, and courtroom battles, but nothing terrified her quite like moving in with him. The door opened before she could knock. Dae-hyun stood there, sleeves rolled up, smile easy. Welcome home. It's temporary, she said quickly. He nodded, pretending to look serious. Of course, just until the baby starts law school. Very funny, she muttered, dragging her luggage inside. The house smelled faintly of cedar and coffee, neat, modern, and far too quiet. He had cleared an entire wing for her. Bedroom on the right, study on the left, and I stocked the fridge with what Yemi said you like. She blinked. You called Yemi? He smiled. I'm efficient. You're nosy, she countered. Same thing. The banter loosened the tension. By evening, she had unpacked and wandered into the living room, where Dae-hyun was trying and failing to assemble a baby crib. He looked up, expression determined. This can't be that complicated. It's upside down, she said, suppressing laughter. No, it's... He paused, then sighed. All right, maybe it's upside down. Ada bit her lip to keep from giggling. You're hopeless. He grinned. You could help, you know. I'm supervising, she said, settling onto the couch. Supervising or laughing at me? Both. Their eyes met, and the laughter faded into something quieter. Something that felt like home. Later that night, over takeout boxes and late news, Dae-hyun asked softly, Are you comfortable? Ada nodded. Too comfortable. You're making this hard. Hard. To keep my distance, she admitted without thinking. His smile faltered slightly, replaced by something gentler. You don't have to. She looked at him then, not as her boss, or her old friend, but as the man who'd quietly built safety around her when she needed it most. I still don't understand why you're doing all this, she whispered. Because I want to, he said simply. Because this isn't charity, Ada. It's choice. The words sat heavy in her chest, not the kind that demanded answers, but the kind that stayed, echoing. When she finally stood to leave, he reached for one of the empty takeout boxes. Their hands brushed. She froze. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Good night, she said softly. Good night, he replied. And as she walked back to her room, Ada realized that for the first time in weeks, she wasn't afraid. She was home, in a way that had nothing to do with walls or roofs, and everything to do with him. Mornings at Daehyun's house settled into a strange kind of peace. Adora would wake to the smell of coffee and the sound of soft piano music from the living room. Daehyun claimed it helped him think. She suspected it helped him avoid talking before caffeine. He always greeted her with the same teasing calm. "Morning, counselor." "Morning, Chef Kong," she'd reply. Somehow the nickname stuck. One morning, she found him in the kitchen wearing an apron. The sight alone made her laugh. "You cook now?" she asked, raising a brow. He smiled, flipping pancakes like a man on a mission. "Trying to be useful." "You're eating for two. I should at least feed one properly." Ada smiled despite herself. "Those look edible." He handed her a plate. "Your confidence inspires me." She took a bite, eyes widening. "Okay, not bad." He looked smug. "I'll take that as high praise from my toughest critic." Their laughter filled the kitchen. Light, familiar, dangerously comforting. Later, as they worked side by side in his home office, Ada noticed how he always adjusted his pace for her. He fetched files, carried boxes, even remembered her snack breaks. "You don't have to hover," she said one afternoon, glancing up from her laptop. "I'm not hovering," he said, leaning against the desk. "I'm observing." "Legally." "Legally," she teased. "You're invading my personal space, Mr. Kong." He leaned closer, grin softening. "Then sue me." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world went very still. She looked away first, pretending to scroll through her notes. "You're impossible." He chuckled. "You've been saying that since we were 10. Still true." That evening, a sudden rainstorm hit Seoul. Thunder rumbled through the house as Ada stood by the window, one hand over her small bump. Daehyun appeared beside her quietly. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how fast everything changed," she said softly. 1 month ago, I had an apartment and a plan. Now you have me," he said simply. She turned to look at him. His expression wasn't playful this time. It was steady, full of something real. "You say that like it's a good thing," she murmured. "It's the best thing I know." The honesty in his voice made her heart flutter, not wildly, but gently, like the first rain after a long dry season. For the first time, Ada didn't fight it. She just smiled, whispering, "You're dangerous when you talk like that." He smiled back. "Then I'll keep talking." Outside, the rain fell harder, but inside, everything felt calm. It started innocently, like most disasters do. That morning, Daehyun walked into the living room to find Adora laughing over breakfast with someone he didn't recognize. A tall Korean man with bright eyes and a bouquet in hand. "Hyun-woo," Daehyun asked carefully. The man grinned. "Old college friend. I just got back from London." Ada smiled, gesturing with her fork. "He's the one who helped me settle in when I first arrived in Seoul years ago. We haven't seen each other in ages." "Ah," Daehyun said lightly, though something in his tone cracked. Hyun-woo handed her the flowers. "You still love lilies, right?" Ada's face softened. "You remembered." Daehyun, standing behind the couch, crossed his arms. "That's thoughtful." "Very," Hyun-woo said cheerfully. "I heard about your baby. Congratulations, Ada." "Thank you," she said warmly. "And the father?" Hyun-woo asked casually. Before Ada could answer, Daehyun stepped forward. "That would be me." Hyun-woo blinked, taken aback by the quiet steel in his voice. "Oh, well, that's nice." "Nice," Daehyun repeated, giving him a polite but unmistakable smile, the kind that set conversation over. Ada shot him a glare. "Daehyun." "Coffee," he interrupted, already heading toward the kitchen. When Hyun-woo finally left, Ada marched straight in after him. "What was that?" she demanded. He looked up from rinsing a mug, expression innocent. "What was what?" "You were rude." "I was direct," he corrected. He was hovering. He was being friendly. He was flirting. Ada folded her arms. "You're jealous." He froze, then said lightly, "I'm observant." "Observant?" she scoffed. You glared at him like he broke into your boardroom. He turned off the tap and faced her fully. "What do you expect, Ada? He walks in here with flowers, calling you beautiful, acting like. Like what? She pressed. Like you're his. Silence. The word hung heavy between them. Ada's heartbeat quickened. You have no right to act possessive. I know, he said softly, but I can't help it. Her anger melted into something else entirely. Dae-hyun. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Every time I see you smile at someone else, I feel like I'm losing something I never got to claim. She swallowed hard. You shouldn't say things like that. Then stop giving me reasons to, he whispered. They stood inches apart, the air thick with emotion neither wanted to name. Finally, Ada looked away, whispering, You're impossible. He smiled faintly. And yet, you're still here. Outside, thunder rolled, soft, distant, but undeniable. The rain had started again that night, soft, steady, and patient, like the city itself was listening. Ada sat by the window, her thoughts tangled between the patter of drops and the words Dae-hyun had whispered earlier. Every time I see you smile at someone else, I feel like I'm losing something I never got to claim. She had spent the whole evening trying to convince herself it meant nothing. But her heart wasn't cooperating. A soft knock came at her door. Come in, she said quietly. Dae-hyun stepped inside, dressed down in a gray sweater and that gentle look he always wore when he wasn't being the CEO. You're still awake, he said softly. I couldn't sleep. He hesitated, then took the chair opposite her. About today. Let's forget it, she interrupted quickly. We both said things we shouldn't. He smiled faintly. I didn't say anything I didn't mean. Her breath caught. Dae-hyun. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've been trying to be careful, to give you space. But every time I do, you move further away and he exhaled, searching for words. I don't want to lose you again. You won't, she whispered. But what we have, it's complicated. Then let it be complicated, he said simply. I'd rather have complicated with you than perfect with anyone else. Ada looked down, her hands twisting nervously. You don't know what you're saying. I do. He reached across the small space between them, gently covering her hand with his. I'm saying I love you, Ada. The words landed softly, like rain finding its way home. She froze, heart racing. Don't. I mean it, he said, voice firm but tender. Not out of guilt, not because of the baby, because you make my world make sense. Tears stung her eyes. You can't just say things like that and expect me to believe me, he finished. Then don't. Just feel it. For a long moment, they sat in silence, two hearts balancing between fear and faith. Finally, Ada whispered, You drive me crazy, you know that? He smiled softly. So I've heard. She took a deep breath. I didn't plan this either. I didn't plan to care this much. Or to love you. Dae-hyun's expression softened, the kind of smile that made everything outside the room disappear. He pulled her gently into his arms, resting his forehead against hers. Say that again, he whispered. She laughed through her tears. Don't push it, Mr. Kong. But he didn't need her to repeat it. He could already hear it in the way she finally stopped running. After that night, everything changed, not in grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but in the soft, ordinary ways that mattered most. Mornings became a quiet rhythm of laughter and comfort. Ada would wake to the smell of cinnamon toast and Dae-hyun humming off-key in the kitchen. She'd tease him. He'd deny it. And somehow, their mornings always ended with smiles. Their love had slipped into the house like sunlight, unannounced, gentle, but impossible to ignore. One evening, Ada sat on the couch surrounded by baby books and folded onesies. Dae-hyun walked in carrying a box labeled Assembly Required. Let me guess, she said, amused. Another baby gadget you found online? He grinned. A state-of-the-art stroller. Safety, comfort, cup holder, it has it all. Cup holder, she teased. For the baby or for you? He pretended to think. Both. She laughed, shaking her head as he started unpacking. Half an hour later, he was still reading the instructions upside down. Ada watched, biting her lip to hide a smile. You know, I could call a professional. He looked up, feigning offense. I am a professional. At what? Making messes. He smirked. At taking care of you. Her laughter softened. The line was playful, but the sincerity behind it was undeniable. That night, as they sat together watching the Seoul skyline through the glass wall, Ada rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever get scared?" she asked quietly. "All the time," he said. "Especially now." "Really?" He nodded. "I'm scared I'll mess up. That I won't be enough for you for the baby." She smiled faintly. "You already are." He turned to her, eyes full of warmth. "You always say the right thing. I'm a lawyer. Words are my weapon," she teased softly. "And your comfort," he said, brushing a loose curl from her face. She looked up at him then, eyes calm, heart steady. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being here." "Where else would I be?" he murmured. Her hand found his, fingers entwining naturally, like they'd been doing it forever. In that quiet moment, with the city lights below and the soft hum of life between them, Ada realized something profound. Love didn't always roar. Sometimes it simply stayed, and as the baby kicked softly, she smiled. "Someone's agreeing with me." Dae-hyun laughed gently, resting his hand on her belly. "Smart kid." She leaned into him, whispering, "Just like his father." He smiled, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "And perfect like his mother." The day started with sunlight and laughter. Adora was in the garden, gently watering the flowers that framed Dae-hyun's courtyard. She hummed softly, one hand resting on her growing belly. Dae-hyun watched from the balcony, smiling at the sight. "You shouldn't be on your feet that long," he called down. "I'm pregnant, not fragile," she replied, rolling her eyes. He grinned. "Same thing to me." She laughed, shaking her head, but 10 minutes later, her laughter faded. A sharp pain rippled through her stomach, quick, unfamiliar, frightening. She froze, gripping the watering can. "Dae-hyun," her voice trembled. He was downstairs before she finished the word. "What's wrong?" I don't know. It just hurts." His face drained of color. "Sit down. Now." He helped her to the bench, his hand steady even as fear flickered in his eyes. "We're going to the hospital." "No, it's probably nothing." "Please," he said softly but firmly. "Don't argue this time." The hospital's white lights felt too bright. Ada lay on the examination bed, eyes on the ceiling, heartbeat echoing in her ears. Dae-hyun stood beside her, clutching her hand as if letting go might break something vital. When the doctor finally smiled, both of them exhaled in relief. "It's normal," she said kindly. "Just stress and fatigue. The baby's fine." Ada closed her eyes, tears of relief slipping down her cheeks. Dae-hyun's shoulders dropped, his breath unsteady. "Thank you," he murmured to the doctor, voice thick. When they were alone, he knelt beside her, resting his forehead gently against her hand. "Don't scare me like that again." "I didn't plan it," she whispered with a weak smile. He looked up, eyes soft but serious. "I've handled boardroom fires, lawsuits, scandals. None of it ever scared me like that moment." Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," he said, brushing away a tear. "Just promise you'll take care of yourself." She nodded, whispering, "We'll both be fine." He smiled faintly. "You and the baby are my whole world now. If anything happened to either of you—" Ada reached out, touching his face gently. "Nothing will happen. We're stronger than we think." He pressed her palm to his cheek, closing his eyes. "You're everything I never knew I needed, Ada." Her heart swelled at the quiet confession, not dramatic, not loud, but full of truth. When they left the hospital, the night air was cool and calm. He helped her into the car, his hand never leaving hers. For the first time, Ada realized love wasn't just about butterflies, it was about fear, too. The kind that makes you fight harder to protect what you can't bear to lose. The drive back from the hospital was quiet, the kind of silence that wasn't empty but full of everything left unsaid. Rain tapped softly against the car windows, blurring the lights of Seoul into gold and silver streaks. Adora sat with her hand resting on her belly, feeling the soft, reassuring rhythm of life beneath her palm. Dae-hyun drove slowly, his eyes fixed on the road, jaws set, not in anger but in thought. When they got home, he helped her inside and guided her to the couch. "You should rest." "I'm fine," she said gently. "You don't have to hover." He knelt beside her instead. "I almost lost my mind today, Ada." She blinked, surprised by the tremor in his voice. He took her hand, fingers trembling slightly. "When you cried out in pain, everything stopped." I realized I can replace employees, rebuild the company, face scandals, but not you. Her eyes softened. Dae-hyun. No, he said quietly, shaking his head. Let me say this before I lose the nerve. He exhaled slowly, searching her face. From today, I'm done holding back. No more pretending this is temporary or convenient. You're not just the mother of my child. You're the person I want beside me every morning, every night, every storm. Ada's heart ached in that sweet, terrifying way only truth could cause. You don't have to promise anything because of the baby. I'm not, he said simply. I'm promising because of you. Her throat tightened. And what if I'm scared? Then I'll wait, he whispered. I'll wait until you're ready to believe that what I feel isn't pity, it's love. Tears gathered in her eyes, falling quietly down her cheeks. He wiped them away with gentle fingers, his touch steady, his gaze unwavering. You make everything sound so easy, she said softly. He smiled faintly. It's not easy. It's just worth it. She let out a shaky laugh, pressing her forehead against his. You're impossible. And patient, he said, grinning through the emotion. Don't forget patient. Ada closed her eyes, breathing in the peace of the moment, the scent of rain, the warmth of his hands, the heartbeat of a love that no longer needed words to prove itself. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Then promise me one more thing. Anything. No matter what happens, we stay honest. No secrets. No running. He nodded, eyes bright. I promise. Outside, the rain began to slow. Inside, the promise hung between them, quiet, strong, and unbreakable. And for the first time, Ada didn't fear the future. She was ready to walk into it, hand in hand with him. The call came just before dawn. Ada awoke to a sharp pain, different from anything she'd felt before. It wasn't the small twinges she'd grown used to. It was deep, rhythmic, commanding. She sat up quickly. Dae-hyun. He stirred, half asleep. Her voice trembled between fear and laughter. I think it's time. He was out of bed in seconds. Time. You mean time. Yes, she gasped. Hospital. Now. He tried to stay calm, but the panic was obvious as he grabbed the hospital bag, his tie, and, oddly, a laptop. Why the laptop? She asked, clutching his arm. Work stress, he muttered, already helping her to the car. The hospital was awake before the city was. Nurses rushed to her side as Dae-hyun filled out forms with trembling hands. His usually perfect handwriting now looked like chicken scratch. When the nurse said, You'll have to wait outside for now, he froze. Outside? Ada managed a weak laugh. You'll survive 5 minutes without control, Mr. Kong. He smiled shakily. Not without you. Hours passed in waves, of pain, of time, of whispered prayers. When the doctor finally said, We're almost there, Ada squeezed the nurse's hand and thought of everything that brought her here. The contracts, the fake dates, the laughter, the tears, and the man pacing just beyond the door. Then she heard his voice, muffled, pleading with the nurse. Please, let me in. I need to be with her. And moments later, he walked to her side, breathless, eyes wet. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. She looked at him, exhausted but smiling. You're late. Never again, he promised. When the final cry filled the room, small, strong, and beautiful, both of them broke into tears. It's a girl, the doctor announced, placing the tiny bundle in Ada's arms. For a moment, the world stopped. Ada stared down at the baby's dark curls, her small fingers curling instinctively around Ada's. Dae-hyun leaned in, his voice trembling. She's perfect. Ada smiled through her tears. Just like you said she'd be. He looked at both of them, his family, and whispered, Welcome home, little one. Hours later, in the quiet of the recovery room, Ada held their daughter close, while Dae-hyun watched from the chair beside her, eyes full of wonder. What will we name her? She asked softly. He smiled. You carried her. You choose. Ada looked down at the tiny face nestled against her heart. Tehillah, she whispered. It means blossom. Dae-hyun touched the baby's cheek gently. Then she's the most beautiful blossom Seoul's ever seen. The house was quieter than it had ever been, but in the sweetest way possible. Soft coos replaced the sound of Dae-hyun's phone alerts, and laughter had taken the place of boardroom calls. Adora sat on the couch in the morning light, cradling baby Tehillah against her chest. The tiny bundle had her father's calm expression and her mother's curious eyes, a perfect blend of two worlds. Daehyun stood nearby, fumbling awkwardly with a baby bottle. "It says 30 milliliters, right?" Ada smiled. "That's the thermometer, not the bottle, genius." He sighed, shaking his head. "In business I'm feared. At home I'm corrected." "Balance," she teased. He chuckled and joined her on the couch, watching as Tehillah's small fingers wrapped around his. "I still can't believe she's ours." "Neither can I," Ada whispered, her gaze soft. "Feels like we blinked and went from enemies to this." He smiled. "Not enemies. Stubborn soulmates." She laughed quietly, resting her head against his shoulder. The warmth between them no longer felt uncertain. It was home. Later that day, the Okafor family video called from Nigeria. Her mother's voice filled the living room. "Ah, so this is our granddaughter. Look at that skin, that nose. Ada, she looks like you." Ada laughed. "Everyone says that until she frowns like her father." Daehyun grinned at the screen. "It's an honor to meet the family, ma'am." Her mother smiled knowingly. "Take care of my daughter. She pretends to be strong, but her heart is soft." "I know," he said gently. "That's why I'll protect it." When the call ended, Ada looked at him, eyes shining. "You know, I used to think love stories only existed in books or dramas." He tilted his head. "And now I live in one," she said with a smile. That evening, they sat in the garden, the same spot where everything had begun. Fireflies drifted through the air as the city lights twinkled in the distance. Tehillah slept peacefully in Ada's arms, wrapped in a soft blanket. Daehyun brushed a curl from Ada's face. "Do you remember what you told me months ago?" She smiled. "Which part?" "Never stop loving me like this." Ada laughed softly. "That doesn't sound like me." He leaned closer, his voice tender. "It sounds exactly like you." She looked up at him, eyes full of quiet joy. "Then promise me again." He smiled, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I couldn't stop if I tried." And as the evening breeze carried Tehillah's tiny sighs through the garden, Ada realized their story was no longer about trials or contracts. It was simply home, a love that began by accident and ended exactly as destiny planned, in peace, laughter, and forever after. A year later, Seoul had changed, or maybe it was just them. The once silent mansion now hummed with the rhythm of life, soft laughter, lullabies, and the occasional squeal of baby Tehillah trying to chase a reflection across the marble floor. Adora's law firm had opened its Seoul branch, her name etched proudly on the frosted glass, Nwosu and Kong Legal Partners. And every morning, without fail, Daehyun dropped by with coffee and that same teasing smile that had once driven her mad. He still worked too much. She still scolded him for it. But between court hearings and company board meetings, their world had found its balance, a delicate dance between love, duty, and the small moments that made it all worth it. Some nights, after putting Tehillah to bed, they'd return to the garden, the same one where everything began. The air would shimmer with memories, the city beyond them glowing like a promise kept. Daehyun would wrap his arm around her and whisper, "We made it." And Ada would smile, her head on his shoulder. "No," she corrects softly, "we're still making it, one heartbeat at a time." Because there wasn't a love born of perfection. It was born of choices, messy, real, and beautiful. And as the moonlight brushed across their home, it was clear that this wasn't just the end of a story. It was the beginning of their forever. Thank you so much for staying with us till the very end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear the lessons you learned and your thoughts on how we can continue improving to give you the very best. Here at Munlyt Stories, every tale is crafted with passion, care, and dedication. Our mission is simple: to entertain, inspire, and connect us all across cultures and hearts. So, keep the conversation alive in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode.